The quarterly earnings report glowed on Marcus Thompson's tablet, a symphony of soaring graphs and bolded impressive numbers. "Record profits," the headline blared. "Thompson Enterprises achieves unprecedented efficiency." But a nagging dissonance had been growing in Marcus's gut for months. The numbers were too clean, the efficiency gains too abstract. He'd built his billion-dollar retail empire from a single store, promising himself he'd never lose touch with the people on the front lines. But in a high-rise office 60 floors above the city, surrounded by yes-men and polished presentations, he felt dangerously disconnected. He made a decision. He was going undercover. "It's called Project Ground Truth," he told his bewildered but loyal chief of security. "I need a complete identity, Mark Miller. Mid-40s, down on his luck, needs a job. Get me into one of our flagship stores." A week later, Marcus, now Mark, stood in the stark fluorescent-lit back room of a Thompson's home goods store, his hands fumbling with a price gun. The air smelled of cardboard and industrial cleaner. The store manager, Brad Miller, no relation, he'd quipped with a smarmy smile, was a walking embodiment of corporate buzzwords, sleek, manicured, and radiating a cold, calculated energy. "Efficiency is our watchword, Mark," Brad said, clapping him on the back with a force that felt more like a warning than a welcome. "We maximize output, we minimize cost. That's the Thompson way." The Thompson way, as Mark quickly discovered, was a nightmare of systemic exploitation. Brad was a master of the art. He'd schedule employees for 29.5 hours a week, just half an hour under the 30-hour threshold that legally mandated health insurance. He'd force them to work through unpaid 15-minute breaks and clock out before staying late to clean up. The wage theft was brazen, calculated, and widespread, but the human cost had a name: Maria Santos. Maria was in her late 30s with kind, tired eyes and hands that moved with a weary efficiency. She was a single mother, and she worked with a quiet desperation that broke Marcus's heart. He saw her meticulously organizing shelves, helping customers with infinite patience, all while casting anxious glances at the clock. One afternoon, he found her in the break room, not eating, but staring blankly at her phone, tears streaming silently down her face. "Maria, are you okay?" Mark asked, his CEO instincts kicking in. She jumped, quickly wiping her eyes. "It's nothing, Mark, it's nothing. It doesn't look like nothing." The story tumbled out. Her 7-year-old daughter, Sophia, needed a crucial spinal surgery. The surgery was scheduled, but the hospital required proof of insurance. Maria had been counting on qualifying for the company's health plan. "Brad promised me," she whispered, her voice cracking. "He said if I kept my numbers up, he'd get me to 30 hours. But every time I get close, he cuts my shift. He says it's budget constraints." "Sophia's surgery is in 3 weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do." Marcus felt a cold fury ignite within him. His company's efficiency was denying a little girl a life-changing surgery. His name was on the building where this injustice was happening. He became a silent detective. On his phone, he secretly recorded Brad instructing a new hire to shave a few minutes off their timesheet. He documented forced off-the-clock work. He gathered the stories of other employees: the college student whose tuition was in jeopardy, the older man skipping meals to make rent. He had all the evidence he needed. The following Monday, Brad called an all-hands meeting in the stockroom. He was beaming. "Great news, team. Corporate is impressed with our efficiency numbers. We're the top-performing store in the region," Brad announced, puffing out his chest. That means bigger bonuses for management. Keep up the hard work." The employees stood in silent, resentful exhaustion. Maria looked like she'd been physically struck. That's when Marcus stepped forward. "Actually, Brad, I have some news from corporate, too," he said, his voice cutting through the stale air. Brad smirked. "Oh yeah, Mark. And what's that? You finally figured out how to use the price gun without help?" Marcus didn't smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his personal cell phone, the one with the custom platinum case. He dialed a number on speaker. A voice answered immediately. "Yes, Mr. Thompson?" The blood drained from Brad's face. "Thompson. Janet," Marcus said, his voice now carrying the effortless authority of a CEO. "I need you to do 2 things. First, immediately draft termination papers for Brad Miller, store manager of flagship location number 107, for gross misconduct, wage theft, and ethical violations. Second, connect me with the head of HR and legal. We have a situation." He ended the call. The stockroom was so quiet you could hear the hum of the freezers. Brad was stammering, his face a grotesque mask of confusion and terror. What? What is this?
Who are you?
Marcus looked at Maria, then at the rest of his stunned employees. My name isn't Mark Miller, he said, his voice firm but filled with emotion. It's Marcus Thompson. A collective gasp rippled through the room. I came here because I feared the soul of this company was being lost in a spreadsheet. I was wrong. It wasn't lost. It was being stolen. By him. He pointed at Brad, who looked like he might be sick. The efficiency he boasted about was built on your backs, on stolen wages, on the denial of basic human dignity. He turned to Maria, whose hands were clasped over her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. Maria, your daughter's surgery will be covered. Fully, by me personally if I have to. Effective immediately, you and every single employee in this store who has been denied benefits will be enrolled in the company's Platinum Tier Health Plan. Backdated. You will all receive full restitution for every minute of unpaid work. With interest, he turned back to the group. And Brad, security is on their way to escort you from the premises. You're finished in this industry. As a stunned Brad was led away, Marcus made more calls on the spot. He froze the store's operations for the day with pay. He ordered catering for a real, proper staff meeting. And he made one more announcement. This store needs a leader who understands integrity, not just efficiency. Effective immediately, the new store manager is Maria Santos. Maria's tears now were of pure, unadulterated relief and joy. But Marcus wasn't done. Project Ground Truth became the Dignity Initiative. He implemented it company-wide, a guaranteed 30-hour minimum for all full-time employees, strict anti-wage theft protocols with anonymous reporting, and a profit-sharing program that rewarded the people on the floor, not just the suits in the boardroom. He'd gone undercover to find a problem. He found a betrayal, but he also found his purpose again. He hadn't just saved his company, he'd rediscovered its soul. And it was worth more than any quarterly report could ever show. Worth more than any quarterly report could ever show.